All right, this is the end of chapter 9. We're going to look at 2 different sections on that page 3 that you have in your notes, and we're going to have exercises with each of those. So the first one we want to talk about is the assertive message format. Now this is going to build on perception checking skill and other things that we looked at concerning expressing feelings. So, and then we'll add 2 more characteristics to this. So first you have to have that behavior statement that we've talked about with perception checking, right? Where you state the behavior, you state the observations that you've made, you state the facts, okay? So you're going to describe that raw material to which you are reacting and responding. And this should be an objective statement or statements, all right? So, and then you have an interpretation statement, which we talked about before. Again, you want to offer at least 2, and you want to make sure it's an offer, all right? And then we're going to add a feeling statement about how you as a speaker feel due to that behavior. All right. And you're going to use the I language that we've talked about, and be precise as in regards to what you are feeling, which emotion or emotions you are feeling. All right. The new things that we're adding here are the consequence statement and the intention statement. All right. So this is something different for us. So we want to talk about this in a little bit more detail. So consequence statement, right? It explains what happens as a result, right, of the situation that you have described. What are the consequences of what has been said or done? All right. So this is going to be 3, either one of these 3, 2, or all of them. It doesn't have to be all of them. It could just be one. What happens to you, the speaker, as a result? What happens to the person you're addressing as a result? What happens to others as a result? Okay. Again, not all 3 of those will necessarily be involved in this. So that's a consequence statement. Here, let's give you an example. All right. So here's an example of what happens to you, the speaker, that I can share. All right. When you didn't tell me that the landlord came by to ask about last month's rent, so that's the behavior. All right. I didn't know that my check had bounced, consequence. It seems to me that you don't care about my credit record or appreciate what it takes for me to handle our rent for the apartment. So interpretation with 2 possibilities. And that's why I'm so mad, feeling, okay? If you want to talk about person you're addressing, here's another example. When you have 4 or 5 drinks at a party after I've warned you to slow down, behavior, right? You start to act strange. You make crude jokes that offend everybody, and on the way home, you drive poorly. Consequences. For instance, last night, you almost hit a telephone pole while you were backing out of the driveway. More behavior there. I don't think you realize how differently you act, interpretation, and I'm worried, feeling, about what will happen if you don't drink less. Okay, what happens to others? Here's another example. You probably don't know because you couldn't hear her cry, interpretation. But when you rehearse your lines for the play without closing the doors, behavior, the baby can't sleep, consequence. I'm especially concerned, feeling, about her because she's had a cold lately. So you kind of get an idea of how this works. We're really just expanding what we've done before, and we're by adding, right, this idea of consequence, right? And those are a number of ways that you can do it. So now we're going to look at the intention statement. So you look at the consequences, what's happened. Now you're going to talk about what is going to happen, what you intend to happen. That can include either where you stand on an issue, requests you have of other people, descriptions of how you plan to act in the future. So you could take, let's say, the one about the baby not being able to sleep, right? I'm especially concerned about her because she's had a cold lately. So therefore, intention, right, can be what you request of others. You could say, would you please keep the door shut while you are rehearsing? All right. So that would be an example of a request of other people. All right. It can be where you stand on the issue. All right. You could say for that same example, I'm especially concerned because she's had a cold lately. It's important that the baby has enough rest, and that so do we. All right. That she needs her sleep in order to get well. So so you need to close your door when you're rehearsing. So again, that can include, in that example, both where you stand on the issue and what you're requesting or actually requiring of others. Description of how you plan to act in the future. Let's do a different example. I've asked you to repay the $25 I lent you 3 times now. Behavior. I'm getting the idea that you've been avoiding me. Interpretation. And I'm pretty angry about it. Feeling. I want you to know that unless we clear this up now, you shouldn't expect me ever to lend you anything again. Intention. So I think you can see those pretty clearly in that example. And again, we're just adding those 2 things on to the idea of expressing emotion and also about perception checking. So we've just added consequence and intention. All right. And again, in a given situation, you may not use all of those things at once, but I think you can see now the value of being able to separate the behavior and your response to it, your desires about what needs to change, and so forth. All right. So, now we're going to, and again, so you can deliver this in a mixed order just like with perception checking. I forgot to mention that, and that's in your notes. You can use your own personal style. You don't have to sound that formal. The more you kind of do it and you think about it, the easier it can get. Just practice, right? Practicing and realizing it's okay if you even get the pieces here and there, okay? So also you can use 2 elements in one phrase. You can get, just like I did earlier with the baby, you can get 2 things done in one sentence. So that's okay too. You just have to realize you want the components there, especially if that's what's needed, all right, to have all of those things there. All right, and you take your time delivering that message. You think about how to put that together. And again, the more you can practice it, the better off you're going to be. And it's okay. Sometimes we're going to fumble around and not get to, get it right every time. But even the effort makes a huge difference. Okay, so, all right. The next thing we're going to talk about is responding non-defensively to criticism. And the interesting thing about criticism is this. And that is that we really only react defensively to criticism when it's true. So that's when it bothers us the most. So sometimes we have difficulty responding in a beneficial way, a constructive way. So we want to look at some things to do. And some of these will remind you of some of those listening strategies, active listening strategies that we talked about in chapter 4. So the first thing that is given to you as a strategy in your notes, right, is to ask for specifics. So this should kind of sound familiar. In other words, if somebody has a vague attack on you, such as you're being unfair. Okay, so one strategy you can do instead of responding defensively with that is to say, in what way do you think I'm being unfair? Okay, so you're asking for specifics. All right. All right. Another thing that you can do is to guess about specifics. Sometimes people they're either not able to identify what they're feeling or what they're thinking. They're not able to figure out exactly what the real problem is sometimes, or sometimes they're deliberately holding it back in an effort to manipulate you in some sort of way, which obviously that's not beneficial. So you can you can guess at the specifics, right? So here are some typical questions you might hear if somebody's guessing about specifics of the critic, right? So somebody's criticism. So you object to the language I used to writing the paper. Was my language too formal? All right. So if you'll remember that questioning response, this is very close to the same thing, if not the same thing in some cases. But okay, I understand that you think this outfit looks funny. But what's so bad? Is it the color? Does it have something to do with the fit? Is it the fabric? All right, so you can get the idea. You're digging very specifically instead of asking a broad question like, just what is wrong with my outfit? Then they can open it up. Or you can say, look for and ask specific targeted questions. Okay, now you can also paraphrase. You can also paraphrase, which we've talked about paraphrasing before, but you can use that to help you get to what is really going on, what the problem is, why there's this, and not react defensively to the criticism that's being presented to you. Sometimes people aren't clear and specific enough about what their criticism is. So you can paraphrase. You can use that here. So here's an interchange with a customer and a manager, right? The way you people run this store is disgusting. I just want to tell you that I'll never shop here again. So the manager is going to reflect that back to the customer. It seems that you're quite upset. Can you tell me your problem? Well, it isn't my problem. It's the problem your salespeople have. They seem to think it's great inconvenience to help a customer find anything around here. So you didn't get enough help locating the items you were looking for. Is that it? Help? I spent 20 minutes looking around in here before I even talked to a clerk. All I can say is that's no way to run a store. So what you're saying is that the clerks seem to be ignoring the customers. No, they were all busy with other people. It just seems to me that you ought to have enough help around to handle the crowds that come in at this hour. Oh, I understand now. What frustrated you most was the fact that we didn't have enough staff to serve you promptly. That's right. I have no complaint with the service I get after I'm waited on. And I've always thought you had a good selection here. It's just that I'm too busy to wait so long for help. Well, I'm glad you brought this to my attention. So we certainly don't want loyal customers going away mad. I'll try to see that it doesn't happen again. So you can get an idea, right, of how that deflates the emotions and gets to what the kernel of the problem really is for the criticism. All right, the next thing you can do is just ask what the critic wants, right? Sometimes it'll be obvious when a critic tells you to turn down the music, right? Or would you clean up your room now? Things like that. But other times you might have to investigate some more. So you may have to just ask what it is they want, all right? And the manager could have done that as well. But I think in that case, the customer wasn't really quite sure what was truly bothering him or her. So here we've got Abel and Brenda. I'll give you that example from Looking Out, Looking In. And Abel says, I can't believe you invited all those people over without asking me first. Brenda, are you saying you want me to cancel the party? Abel, no, I just wish you'd ask me before you make plans. Jen, you're so critical. It sounds like you don't like anything about this paper. This is another example, sorry. But you asked for my opinion. What do you expect me to do when you ask? I want to know what's wrong, but I don't want to hear criticisms. If you think there's anything good about my work, I wish you'd tell me that too. All right, so you have to, it's important, right, you can see how nonverbal is important that goes along with this, that you are using this idea of asking what the critic wants to really get at the information, and so that you do it in a positive way, not a patronizing way, but in a way that sounds supportive and positive, that you really you do want to know what's bothering the other person, right? So with the Abel and Brenda thing, you've got, I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you invited these people. Are you saying you want me to cancel the party? No, I just think you'd wish you'd talk to me before you make plans. Okay, so if we match the nonverbal better with that, then it's going to sound more like, I can't believe you invited all those people over here without asking me first. Are you saying you want me to cancel the party? So I shift my nonverbal, and that makes it more of asking what the critic wants. So, all right. Then you can also ask about the consequences of your behavior. Okay, I think this is